In this video, I'm gonna share some tips on cold weather photography. Hi guys, my name is Matti Sulanto. I'm a photographer and a Lumix ambassador. And in this video, I'm gonna share some tips on how to make your cold weather photo walk much more enjoyable. But to be honest, my mind runs better inside where it's warm. So let's go into my office so I can concentrate better on what I have to say. And I think my tips are going to be better when I can concentrate better. See you in my office. This feels so much better now. So let's get started. The tips that I'm gonna share in this video are not photography tips per se. These are more like survival tips for you and your camera if you have to take pictures in cold weather. But I'm going to share some camera and lens recommendations as well. And I'm also going to talk about the battery life because I get a lot of questions about the battery life in camera battery life in cold weather. And I also used the word photo walk on purpose because these tips are for urban kind of photo walk, 2-3 hour photo walk rather than camping or hiking in cold climate. I'm not a big outdoor person and I can't share any tips on hiking or camping. And when I'm talking about cold weather, I'm talking about sub-zero temperatures below 0 Celsius degrees. Someone is probably going to comment down below that 0 degrees Celsius is not cold. Well, of course, it's relative. And if you live somewhere inland where the air is quite dry, something like -10 or -15 Celsius doesn't necessarily feel that bad. But if you live on the coast by the sea and there's a little bit of wind blowing, something like -2 or -3 degrees Celsius can feel pretty bitingly cold. I can tell you that. My first tip is kind of obvious, but it's also very easy to overlook, and that is wear enough warm clothes. Make sure you have warm shoes and enough warm layers all over you. It's very important because when you are photo walking, you are not likely to walk very fast, like exercising. You may even have to stand still for a while to wait for the right moment to happen or something similar. So it's very important to stay warm because as soon as the cold kicks in and it takes over, then you just can't concentrate on anything anymore, anything other than getting somewhere where it's warm. So make sure you have enough warm clothes on you when you go out and take your photo walk. Unfortunately, I can't recommend any specific clothes or brands or anything, but I do have a pair of gloves. These are Valaret brand gloves, and these gloves are the reason that I have the paid promotion or whatever text down below, because I got these gloves for this video. But this is not a paid advertisement or anything. I just wanted to have a pair of photography specific gloves to show you. These gloves have some nice features for photographers. First of all, they have this kind of a sticky surface on, on this side on the palm side of your the hand or glove, so it makes holding your camera very secure and comfortable. You have very a firm grip on your camera with these gloves. And then they have these fingertips that you can peel away and expose your bare finger so you can operate your camera dials and buttons with more precision, and also the touch screen. This pair of gloves that I have is the Markov Pro 2.0, and in my opinion these are very nice gloves, but they are not suitable for very cold weather. They are suitable for something around 0 temperatures, plus minus a few degrees, but I would not use these in, say, minus 10 Celsius degrees. These are not warm enough. But this Valaret brand, they have other glove models for very, very cold weather. I'll put the link to their website down below so you can take a look if you're interested. And it's not an affiliate link. I don't get anything out of this. I just wanted to show you one photography specific pair of gloves or brand. I'm sure there are other similar products also around. And now let's talk about the cameras, lenses and the camera settings just a little bit. My recommendation is to keep your gear setup as simple as possible, because you don't want to change lenses in very cold weather or if it's snowing or something unless you absolutely have to. So keep your gear as simple as possible. One camera, one lens, and try to decide on which lens and which camera even before you go out. At the beginning of this video I was holding the tiny Lumix GX880 camera, but that would not be my first choice to take on a cold weather photo walk. My first choice would be a slightly bigger camera like maybe the Lumix G9 or the S1R, for example. Because whenever you are operating your camera with gloves, you want to have a slightly bigger camera with the proper control dials. You don't want anything that requires very precise operation, because gloves are just not good for something like that. You want a camera that has a good size and good size of dials that are easy to operate in any conditions. And I would also avoid cameras that depend on the touch screen functions, because the touch screen is a bit of a pain in cold weather and you can't have your fingers exposed for any long periods of time if it's really cold. And there's one feature that I really like, and that's the operation lock, which is available on many Lumix cameras. You can customize it to lock certain buttons and dials, and that prevents you from accidentally changing some of your camera settings when you are wearing gloves. And I can tell you that it's very easy to change some of the settings by accident with gloves. So it's a very useful feature and I highly recommend it for cold weather photography. And my next tip is always use the lens hood. And the deeper the lens hood, the better. This one on the Leica 25mm f1.4 lens is a very good example of a good lens hood in snowy conditions. If it's snowing, it's very easy to get snow on your front element, but it can be really painful to get the snow off the front element, because if you use your fingers, you're gonna leave probably some water marks on your front element. If you use your glove, you're gonna leave some sort of snow or ice residue on your front element. It's almost impossible to get it cleaned when you're out there. So use a lens hood, and when you're walking, point your lens downwards like this, so you're less likely to get any snow on your front element. And now let's talk about batteries. Cold temperatures are poison, especially for lithium-ion batteries that power most of our cameras and also our phones. So always have a spare battery with you whenever you are in cold weather. And never place your spare battery in your camera bag. Put the spare battery into your inside pocket that is as close to your body as possible, so your body will keep the spare battery as warm as possible. And to give you some idea what happens to a camera battery in a very cold temperature, I made a little non-scientific test. I put one of these freshly charged Lumix batteries into my freezer for 2 hours. And I believe my freezer the temperature there is around -20 Celsius. And after that 2 hours, the capacity of the battery dropped to about half. But after about 30 minutes in normal room temperature, the battery had recovered to a full capacity again. And one more time, I'm fully aware that this is not a scientific, precise battery test, but it shows you pretty well what happens to a camera battery in cold temperature. So if your camera battery dies because of the cold temperature, take the warm spare battery from your pocket and put it into your camera. And take the cold battery from your camera and put it in to your pocket close to your body. There's a good chance that the cold battery will recover, at least partly recover, when it warms up in your pocket. And then one more thing. Whenever you go back inside where it's warm, let your camera temperature slowly stabilize. Leave the camera in the camera bag, or if you have a small camera that's in your pocket, leave the camera in the pocket for at least 2 hours or 3 hours and let it slowly stabilize or warm up there. If you just take your camera all of a sudden from cold to warm temperature, you will get condensation all over the glass and metal surfaces, and that's not very healthy for your camera. Maybe if you do that only once, it's not a big deal, but if you do it on a regular basis, it's not good for your camera. I hope these little tips will help you if you decide to take a photo walk in cold weather. And also remember to subscribe and like and all that if you like my content. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.